Do you love the Ford Expedition Timberline? Well, if you do, forget about it because it's no longer the Timberline. It's now the Ford Expedition Tremor, you know, like the other Ford Tremors, starting with the Maverick and going all the way up, of course, to the Super Duty. In this video, we're going to take this Tremor up Deer Creek Trail, and we're going to talk about how it drives. I'll give you a quick walk around. We'll see if it's any good off-road, and we'll do our usual review. And at the end of this, you'll know whether you should buy this or the Tahoe Z71, which Tommy and I drove on this very same trail. Well, it was about 4 years ago, but it's still the 5th generation. So let's cut to that for a second, and then you can compare it with me to this new Expedition Tremor. Tommy, I don't think this new Tahoe has a locker. We looked through the press materials and we couldn't find anywhere where it said that it has a locker, but there's certainly one way to find out. I'm at a really steep angle with a big rock in front of me. I'm just going to try to drive up toward this rock and let's see if both of the rear wheels lock up or if one spins and one doesn't. That's probably the easiest way to find out, right? If it's got a locker.
If this had the G80 locker, it's an automatic locker, so when one wheel spins, it would automatically force the other one to engage, but that didn't happen.
So it's got 2 high, 4 high, 4 low, and auto, but it really doesn't have any lockers in the front or in the rear, so basically it splits power 50-50 front and back, but then what happens when you get into a little situation like this?
Well, it gets stuck because it's basically got an open diff in the front and the back, and it will grab the brakes to try to allocate power to the wheel with traction, but it didn't quite have the means to do that on this little test.
All right, so the important stuff. First and foremost, the Tremor only comes in this short, I say short with air quotes, length, because the long version of this is not available in a Tremor, and that's probably good because if it did, it would probably have the breakover of an aircraft carrier. Now, I do love the design of this new Ford Expedition Tremor. I think that especially in this green color with the gold Tremor accents, it looks mighty good. And of course, this being a Tremor, it has all of the off-road goodies. So first and foremost, it has these general grabbers. These are 33s with, of course, this gold insert, which makes it look much more off-road worthy in Ford terms. You've got your side steps. Then, of course, you've got the requisite recovery hooks in gold as well. A very square-jawed front end. And then coming around the side here, you also have a very long vehicle, of course. This is a 3-row full-size SUV. And one of my favorite things about this Expedition, and I'm sorry if I'm out of breath, right over 10,000 feet above sea level, so we're a little low on oxygen right now, is the fact that it also has this little tailgate. The 3rd row is down right now, if you're wondering. And that's a lot of room. You know, Ford, GM, even Stellantis do these truck-based 3 rows really well. And this is someplace that American vehicles still excel. And if you want something that will haul you and your family and maybe a small Cub Scout troop up here to the mountains of Colorado, this would be a good, sorry, hit the wrong button. This would be a good choice. And in general, I think this is a very handsome vehicle. Just, you know, a lot of good design choices made in the front here. Kind of got this big smiley face, which I think you'll see if you see him running around now. A lot of these go to rental fleets, which is pretty staggering because, well, they're not cheap. And we'll talk about that in a second. I like this. It's a pretty cool little Easter egg in the corner. All right, let's jump in. Let's talk about what makes this off-road worthy. So I'm going to show you the things that I hate about this before we go into the off-road mode. Give me a chance to catch my breath. So to start it, of course, buttons right there, easy peasy. But man, here's where it gets ugly. Look at these haptic controls on the steering wheel. I remember when Tesla did this for the first time, at least the first time I saw it, to adjust the mirrors, to adjust the seats. And then I thought it was a horrible idea because I didn't know exactly how they worked. And then Rivian jumped on the bandwagon. And then Ford, I'm guessing over drinks, decided, you know what, let's get rid of the rotary switch and let's make it a haptic switch. And let's make it even more confusing and even hard to use. So the way it works is, as you can see, you got to look up on the screen. Let me zoom in a little bit. And there, you can control it. And that, clicking this, and you can move either the steering wheel or the pedals back and forth. Unless you know this was in play, you probably have a hard time figuring it out. Andre actually had to show me because I didn't know how this worked. The other thing I hate is right there. That's where your lights are. I couldn't think of like a worse place for the light controls because they're so far out of where you think they are. I mean, normally you think they are right there. And speaking of right there, that's your four-wheel drive switch. And as you can tell, you do have 4 auto, but man, is it hard to see and hard to get to. Luckily, that switch, and put you in neutral so I can put it in off-road mode, is also kind of mirrored on the screen. So I'm going to zoom in again here and show you what I mean by that. So zoom in a little more. So you've got, I think, lost the modes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 modes maybe. So of course, tow haul, eco, sport, slippery, and this is what Ford does, which I really like. Then you go into your off-road mode, and then you can go into your rock crawl mode. Look at that, some more Fords and full-size trucks heading down the trail. Howdy, how are you? And talk about the old Bronco. Now that was the big Bronco, so if this guy can go up the trail. Howdy. Hey, man, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. All right, I was saying, so that is something interesting. So what that does is it basically puts you in all the correct modes. You can see right there, I now am in 4 low. I've got the rear diff locked. And let me turn that off. And then you can kind of see that everything is where it should be. It also turns on my cameras here. Turn that off. That's your proximity control. And then there are a lot of different cameras here that let you do a lot of different things. So like if you want to go 360, you can go front. You can go 360 right here, and you can see what's around you. That's kind of where I like to be. I like the fact that it shows you where you're kind of driving now. There are interesting cubbies here. There's one right here. There's another one right here. And then there's a secret cubby. Check this out. Now, we all know what this is for. Look at that. Yep, that's for a purse, of course. I'm just kidding. We all know what that's for, really. All right, so let's hit the trail. Now, keep in mind, like I said, I just did this in our F-150 Tremor, so kind of I'll talk about that a little bit as well. But there is a huge difference between that and this Expedition, of course, and that is that this Expedition is ginormous. This is a big truck. All right, here we go. This is a pretty interesting trail. I like it because it's called Deer Creek. We use it a lot for testing our vehicles, and I like it because it's not too easy and it's not too hard. So you don't, put yourself or the vehicle in harm's way, and then it is hard enough that it gives you a sense of just how good this vehicle is off-road. And if you want to find it, head on over to our, right there, Onyx. Head on over to our sponsor, Onyx Off-Road. Click on the link below and use the TFL Off-Road code to save some money. And then you'll never be lost because Onyx lets you download the maps ahead of time, even if there's no service like there is none here. And yeah, check them out. They make videos like this possible, and they've just been a great sponsor of ours for a couple of years now. So I'm thrilled that they're sticking with us. All right, back to the review. And I gotta say, I think these General Grabbers are doing a really good job. I'm not exactly sure as to the ground clearance on this vehicle, but I'm guessing it's around 10 inches, which is close to what the F-150 Tremor is. And it seems to be enough that over these little whoop-de-doos, I'm not scraping the bottom of this truck. And yeah, I'm calling it a truck because it is a truck-based full-size SUV. And that's, I think, why we're so good in America at building these, because we're really good at building trucks. But this little whoop-de-doo would be a good place to get high-centered if you had the long wheelbase version of this truck. But you can't get it in the Tremor, which is a good thing, because like I said, out here, approach, departure, and breakover are very important. Now, at the end of this video, what I'll do is I'll talk about the price, and I'll also kind of give you the options. And one of the options you get with the Tremor is a full set of underbody skid plates, which is a very nice thing to have, because as you can see, the camera out there a little bit, we've got some rocks here. I'm sure they look small on camera, but they're not that small. And if you, oh, look at the things jumping and bounding over them. And have you heard any crashing into skid plates? No! Which is why I think this is kind of the sweet spot in the Expedition's tool set. And compared to the Tremor F-150, the one that we own, is this truck is talking to me, Andre. You know what it's saying?
Go home.
No, that's what the EV Trail Boss said, turn around and go home, when I was up here last with it. No, what this truck is telling me is, let's keep going, Roman, this is fun. And Andre, I wholeheartedly agree. This truck is just eating this up. Great wheelbase length, suspension is working as it should, plenty of power, and I gotta say, I love the sound of that 5.7 liter Hemi in front of me. A lot more expensive, I'll tell you that, because that one stickered about 68, we paid 63, and if you're guessing how much this cost, you can go quite a bit above 68. It's also quite a bit more comfortable in some ways. Oop, just hit the skid plate there, first time, which isn't bad because I'm up here already, probably 3 or 4 miles from the trailhead. So compared to the truck version of this, it's a little bit more boat-like, but surprisingly agile. I always worry with these full-size SUVs that, you know, you're going to get yourself into a situation that you're not going to be able to get yourself out of, but yet this fills me and inspires me with confidence. And, you know, at the end of the day, I've been doing this long enough now where I can pretty easily tell how a vehicle does relatively quickly just by kind of getting behind the wheel. Now, the one thing I do find, and you can see it right there, I do find bothersome, is, do you see this giant ledge here? I'm going to call that the Expedition dust collector. It's also the Expedition reflector, and it reflects really badly onto the front of the windscreen. And so it kind of blocks your area of view. I'm not sure that Ford is on the right track with these dual screens. If you look at where it's going, BMW just introduced their new Neue Klasse SUV, and they're using the entire screen, or projecting out of the screen, for the different functionality. And Ford, of course, in the Lincoln division, has taken the screen and has wrapped it all the way around. So has GM in the electric Escalade. And gosh, I gotta tell you, I am so done. I'm so donezo with screens, as Matt would say on the Smoking Tire podcast. I've been listening to him a lot, so that's why I use that term. Not trying to steal it from you, Matt, but I am so over all these screens and haptic controls and hidden controls and light switches that are mysteriously placed somewhere where you have to go and find them. I kind of feel like I'm not the only one out there. Let me know in the comments below, because I would love to get your opinion. But I feel like I'm not the only one, and I feel like the manufacturers are now just, this is a very tight S-turn, by the way. So we'll see if this vehicle can do it. I think this has, and I could try to find it, but I don't want to stop right now because I don't want to lose momentum. I think this has a trail turn where you can drag that rear wheel and make this turn without necessarily having to do a couple zigs and zags. But I think this has a pretty good turning radius for a giant vehicle. Look at that. No worries. Made it without even using the trail turn assist feature, which tends to tear up the trail anyway, especially in something like this big. Now, I wonder if I can bring in the mirrors. Oh yeah, because this is about to get tight up here. We're about to go through this part that has a lot of trees. Here comes a side-by-side. I'm going uphill I do have the right of way. So let's see if these guys in the side-by-sides will give that to me. And the answer is no. No, I'm gonna have to move over here and let them come through. Howdy. Can you get by?
One more behind me.
Yeah, I got you.
Thank you.
Can you get by? Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Wouldn't that be funny if they rolled into us? Hi.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Oh, that was close. Another downside of having a giant vehicle on the trail when the trail gets narrow, and that is meeting oncoming traffic. Luckily, those were the smaller side-by-sides. I don't know if one of those big Polarises or Yamahas would actually make it. Anyway, this is where it gets super tight, so I brought in the outside mirrors. But I have to say, I am impressed. Ford cameras, rear locker, pretty soft suspension. As you can tell, I'm not getting a lot of that side-by-side head bob that makes off-roading very uncomfortable. Enough ground clearance, underbody protection, and of course, the most important thing, gold recovery hooks. What more do you want? Now, I said I would compare this to the F-150. In comparison to the F-150, this is a little bit less athletic. But I can see the second or third or fourth owner of this, when these become much less expensive, actually using this as a really good overlanding vehicle, because it does have the basis of a really good off-roader. Now, at what point does this become too precious to put in harm's way, which is what I'm doing right here? I don't know, but I do know that for a while there, especially the diesel full-size Fords were very popular overlanding rigs. And I think this is going to go down that same road. I mean, you got a lot of room, you got a lot of payload. I'm guessing we'll check the payload sticker when we stop, because we're about to pop out of the tree line, and then I'll give you a really great view of the Colorado Rockies. Let's just see how high we are. I'm curious. So according to my watch, right there at the bottom, we are at disappeared 11,542 feet above sea level. That's getting up there for all of you sea level types. All right. As you can tell, we're about to pop out here into the wide open road, so to speak. And we can then head on up to the first turn and stop, and then take a look at the Monroney and talk about just how much you're going to have to pay for this much gigantic, or is it ginormous, off-road ability. I also, speaking of which, I also hate the steering wheel, Ford. Look, let me ask you this. To me, the Squircle looks like this way is right side up, this way is upside down. What happened to just the wheel? Why can't we just have a round steering wheel and not reinvent the steering wheel? Do we need all this weirdness? Maybe I'm getting old and I'm getting grumpy and I'm getting fussy, but I think I'm onto something here. Like I said, let me know in the comments below. I do have to say, I am happy that it's got regular vents and not electronic, vents. Now we're going to give it a little bit of the beans here, because it does open up a little bit, and then test its kind of Baja ability, which is going to be interesting, because this is about as far from a Baja vehicle as you can get. But you know what? It's not doing badly. It's actually taking these whoop-de-doos, not like a Raptor, but there's not a lot of body motion where you feel like you're about to get sprung into the wild Colorado air through this giant panoramic sunroof. Movements are well controlled, and not a huge amount of head hop, head bob, head hitting, even when I'm going this quickly. And I know 10 miles an hour doesn't seem that quick, but on a pretty rugged trail like this does separate the good off-road suspension from the poser stuff. No issues with grip. And overall, I'm going to give this Expedition high marks on its off-road ability. Now, that has to be put, of course, into perspective with how much it costs. I'm going to stop over here at this turn, and we're going to look at the Monroney together. Well, oh, a little bit of air there. And then I'll sum it up as best as I can. So let me pull this little waylay here. I'm sure it's not a waylay, but that's what I'm calling it. All right. Ooh, a little bit of thing. A little bit of dust here. All right. How much is this bad boy? We got the Monroney right here. Put it in park. We're looking at $81,350 right there. And then when you add destination of $21,555, you're at, holy cow, $85,000 when you add those two numbers together. And there aren't a lot of options. There's basically a second row bench seat, which is a $595 option. Then there is the connectivity package. And then there is the underbody protection and cargo tailgate manager for $390. So not a lot. You are going to pay the price at the pump, $18 combined, which is still pretty amazing given, the size of this beast. And then the color, in case you're wondering, is called Wild Green. It's right there. And where is this bad boy built? Let me see if that's on the Monroney here as well. I'm sure it is somewhere. No, can't find it, of course, because I'm doing this for Motor Company, Motor City. So that's where it went. Final assembly, Kentucky. There you go. Built in Kentucky. So yeah, overall, I think this is a really good off-roader for what it is. And let's check out the payload sticker, because I promised we would do that. So manufactured GVWR, tires. Where's our payload? Tire. Yeah, right there. 13,060 pounds or 616 kilograms. Yeah, that's a little disappointing. That's a little bit disappointing for something this big. We're looking at 1,300 pounds. That's basically full-size truck territory, which I guess kind of makes sense. But still, you'd expect, like, more heavy-duty payload, especially when you've got room for 3 rows of passengers. Well, guys, thank you for joining me up here in the beautiful Colorado Rockies. I hope you have enjoyed my review of the new Ford Expedition Tremor. Like I said, if you like the Timberline, Ford is going with the Tremor. And as always, head on over to all TFL for more news, views, and beautiful Colorado Rocky reviews. I shall see you next time.